So I am a photographer, videographer, just overall content creator type person. And I do a lot of work within Formula One and Formula E. And while I do also a lot of other stuff, mainly other stuff like commercial work and whatever, I think Formula One and Formula E has taught me the most about my workflow and just how I work. So I wanted to make a video about the stuff that I've learned and how I work within Formula One and Formula E. This is my, photo and video workflow within F1 and FE. I want to start off by saying that there's no real one correct way to do things. There's not one singular way that you have to work, because it all just depends on who you are, your preferences, what you're doing, who you're creating for, who you're shooting for. So, this is just my way of working. Requirements vary from race to race, from series to series, from weekend to weekend. What you're doing, how you're supposed to do it, who you're doing it for. It all changes almost every weekend. So my whole workflow is set up to allow me to be as flexible and as efficient as I possibly can, while wasting as little time as I can, while still delivering as high quality content, photos and videos as I possibly can. And just for context, I'm shooting on the A7R5 and the A7S3, but it doesn't really matter because this isn't camera specific at all. I think all of these workflows can be applied to any other camera, any other brand, anything else that you might have. I'm gonna go over my photography workflow and my filmmaking workflow, but I wanna start off with my photography workflow because it's a little bit more intricate. So the backbone to my entire workflow in photography is rating all of my photos in camera. So all of my photos, every single time that I take photos, I rate them 1 to 5 stars in camera, or, I don't rate them. That's the backbone to everything. And there are really 5 reasons why I do this in camera and not afterwards. Because I might be shooting over a whole day. I might take 2,000, 3,000, whatever photos, and going over 3,000 photos in one big chunk at the end of the day is a huge waste of time. 1 to 3 hours of just clicking through photos and rating one, next, 1 star, next. That's a total waste of time. Second reason I do this is because I'm kind of able to categorize all of my selected photos into 5 different groups. So I don't have to do that afterwards as well. So let's say if I'm shooting a Formula One weekend and I have to segment my photos, 1 star might be drivers, 2 stars might be celebrities, 3 stars might be general documenting shots of the area, 4 stars might be something off track. I'm able to segment my photos so I don't have to do that later. So again, saves me time. But if I don't have to segment my photos, I usually just do 1 star for a select photo and then 2 stars if it's like a banger or something that I want to use for myself. The third reason to rate my photos in camera is to very easily transfer my photos off of my camera onto my phone wirelessly. Now I shoot both RAW and JPEG all of the time. 61 megapixel lossless compressed RAW and very small 15 megapixel JPEGs. The reason I do this is to be able to send it to my phone very quickly, because very often in F1 and FE, they might need a picture to post very quickly, or something might be happening at a certain time and I need to post something 2 minutes later. If I'm shooting and editing just the RAWs, it's gonna take more time to transfer onto my phone, or I'm gonna have to take out a wire and transfer it. It's gonna take more time to edit it on my phone and export it because it's a RAW file. It's gonna take more time to send, it might be bigger, just more time. I don't wanna waste more time. So I edit only the JPEGs. Now the key here is I have to be careful with the JPEGs because I'm shooting, very small, very lightweight JPEGs, so they don't have all the information that a RAW might have. So I have to be careful to nail my exposure and my white balance in camera. So I mainly shoot in aperture priority mode. So my camera is usually pretty much on auto, within certain parameters that I set. And then if I enter a new room or I'm in a certain environment, I auto exposure lock and I auto white balance lock. And then I just use the exposure wheel to dial up or down my exposure, for certain photos. That just means that all of my photos from a given area, so let's say if I go to, the pit lane, it's all kind of lit the same. So if I auto exposure lock and auto white balance lock, all of the photos from that batch, 200, 300, 400 photos, whatever, they're all going to be almost exactly the same. And also by nailing the exposure and the white balance in camera, I don't have to do that afterwards while editing the JPEGs. So I'm not in danger of breaking the JPEGs because I just have to put on like a little bit of contrast, a little bit of color here and there. I'm not doing any crazy heavy editing on the photos, so I'm less likely to break the JPEGs. So yes, the rated JPEGs can go straight onto my phone or my iPad. I'll edit them there and I'll send them via AirDrop or WhatsApp or a cloud or something or other to whoever needs it. And then I save the raw photo for later if I need to do some more heavy editing or want to do something more with a photo. For example, with the photo of Max winning the championship, here's the JPEG version that I edited very quickly on the spot to deliver. And here's the raw photo that I took the time to edit, took the time to Photoshop, get rid of some people, put in a little light stuff. I was one of those purists that, only wanted to shoot in RAW and just wanted to edit the RAWs. But it was just such a pain in the ass to do it quickly because of the transfer times, and it drains the battery to edit and all that sort of stuff. And with these just very quick turnaround photos for social media, you're not going to see a big difference in the final deliverable. I mean, here are two photos. One is the RAW, one is the JPEG. I bet you can't see any difference. You're not going to be able to identify what's the RAW, what's the JPEG with the same super quick edit. And the fourth reason I rate all my photos in camera is for archival reasons. Now, this also works if you rate your photos later, not in camera, but you have to rate them nonetheless. It's so that I can delete all of the photos that I don't want later, right? So of course I keep all my photos from every race for a certain amount of time, but then after that I don't need a blurry photo of Mick Schumacher anymore. So instead of going in and manually picking the photos that I want to delete out of 8,000, 10,000, whatever photos, I can just go into Photo Mechanic, sort by unrated photos, pick all of them and delete. Done. I know I have my bangers rated. I know I have them all, like 400 images sitting there in the folder, but I've gotten rid of 9,600 other photos eating up space on my hard drive over there. So that's kind of how I approach photography within F1 and FE. I see that, some other photographers like to use like an FTP thing where they press a button and instead of it going on your phone, it goes via the internet to some server where it can just be hosted immediately, or there might be an editor on standby ready to receive the photos that can edit, crop, post, caption, all that sort of stuff. People do that. That's great. I don't do it. It doesn't fit my workflow. That's not what we do. I don't have an extra editor. I don't have time to do that. So, it's valid, but I don't do it. And then also, I don't work with prime lenses that much anymore. I've probably talked about this before. I mainly shoot on my Tamron 35-150, just because I don't have time to be swapping lenses. I don't want to be bringing many lenses with me. I want to be as light as possible. I also have multiple SSDs with me, and I back up to multiple SSDs every time because, one might get corrupted, and then I also put them in different bags when I'm traveling so that if one bag gets lost, I still have a backup ready, because that's just something I don't want to do. I don't want to lose any footage, period. That would be terrible, both business-wise for the client and also just for me. I don't want to lose all my precious photos. And yeah, I know there are cloud services available, but when you're working with 200-300 gigabytes of select photos and who knows how many gigabytes of video, I can't be uploading all that on hotel Wi-Fi just within a few hours. That's not going to happen. So cloud services aren't really an option. But now onto my videography filmmaking workflow. Now this is a little bit more basic, if you can say that, than my photography workflow, because there's not a lot more you can do. I can't make any selects within my camera. I can't do any, folder or file management within my camera, really. So along with shooting full resolution media for everything, I also shoot proxies for everything as well. And the reason I do that is for, I think, 120 gigabytes of footage, the proxy setting that I have on now, I get around 7 gigabytes of proxies, which means that I can transfer the 7 gigabytes of proxies first and then start editing. And if I'm just doing a few little social edits, maybe 2 or 3 15 to 30 second videos, while the full resolution media is copying, that might take 20, 30, 40 minutes if I'm copying it and backing it up. I'm just editing with the proxies, and by the time the full resolution media has finished copying, I'll be done with the edits via the proxies, which means that I can just relink the full resolution media, and then I'm done editing, just immediately when the full resolution media has backed up. So again, I'm just saving time by doing this. Also, if I'm shooting proxies, I can transfer just the proxies onto my iPad, which I'm using as a monitor right now. I can transfer it onto my iPad and start editing while I'm on the go. So if we're out and about somewhere, for example, in next week, I'll be in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, shooting with the Andretti Formula E team. And if we're out and about, having shot a few edits, I don't have to wait until we get back to the media center or whatever to put the footage on my computer and start editing. I can just edit on my iPad, and then I can buy myself like 15, 30, 40 minutes of extra time. Also, one big change that I've made regarding my video gear and the gear that I bring with me to these races is that I've completely stopped taking monitors with me at all. So I used to have, okay, wait, hold on. Wait. So I used to have these monitors with me, like these little on-camera monitors. These ones are from Feel World. I used to have them with me for every race and usually for every project. And, you know, traveling to these races, traveling all over the world, to China, to Brazil, to Vegas, to here and there, I don't want to be taking stuff with me at all. And these monitors, even though they're not very heavy, they take up space. They take up a lot of space. And for every one of these monitors, I also have to bring a battery and an extra battery. And I also have to bring an HDMI and a backup HDMI if that one fails, and I have to bring a charger for the batteries and all that sort of stuff. So it all takes up a fairly good amount of space. And also, these monitors, they're just not that great. They're pretty shitty. And if I want to get a proper, you know, OLED monitor with a great screen and whatever, I'm gonna have to pay an extreme amount of money for some small HD monitor or whatever. And I don't want to do that. And now that Sony has, you know, pushed a lot of updates for the cameras, the A7R5, the S3, the FX30 over there, I can now connect my phone via USB-C, like I'm doing now with my iPad, straight to my camera and use my phone as a monitor, which is fantastic because that just means I don't have to bring any of this stuff anymore. The latency is great. The apps are phenomenal. Like I'm using this one called Monitor Plus right now, and it has all the tools that I might possibly need. I can also, you know, control the camera in every way. I can start recording. I can change my shutter, my ISO, my aperture, my white balance, my focus, my mode, my area, all of it. I can change everything, which is, oh, it's lovely. It's fantastic. So now these days, if I'm doing a project that's kind of run and gun and I have to pack light, I don't take a monitor. And if I need to use a monitor, I just use this. Easy peasy. And then of course I edit everything in Resolve because it's quick, it's nice, it's available on my iPad and on my computer and great for color grading and all that sort of stuff. Also just I'm used to it. I'm not a Premiere Pro guy anymore, sorry. And then for kind of the rest of the gear that's on my camera, on my rig while I'm shooting video, I want to keep it very minimal. I used to have like this matte box. It was pretty big and you know the whole rig was pretty big, but I've decided to ditch all that and just become as small and as flexible as possible. So it's just mainly the body, and then I have like a small V-mount on the back of there. That's about it for my filmmaking videography workflow. I mean, there's not a whole bunch more that you can do. You know, you can just rig up your camera and import your footage and edit it. There's not a lot more you can do. To conclude, like I said, there is no one correct way to do things. This isn't the wholly correct way to do things. It's just my way of doing things, the way I like to do it, and the way of doing things that fit my specific criteria, how I work, who I work for, all that sort of stuff. And it's really designed to save me as much mental load, as much time, and just as much stress as possible in these kind of often high pressure environments, to ensure that I can still, you know, deliver high quality stuff in a good amount of time. And efficiency is really the key word in, you know, how I think about my workflow, how I work, how I do things. Efficiency is always number 1, 2, and 3. If you have any questions, let me know. If you would have done anything differently, also let me know. If you have any Lightroom hacks or photo mechanic tips. I'm still trying to get the hang of photo mechanic properly in order to use it properly, you know. But yeah, if you have anything, any comments, any questions, let me know. And thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, bye.